Well, it's John Black, super chemist. We're here on part 14 of the biggest trick of gender theory. Uh, and let's see here. I wanted to clarify a couple things. When I say these, all these single mothers are non-binary now, right? And that they act just like the non-binary, the green-haired, metal-faced, tattoos all over themselves, nose ring. They act just like them, where they're crazy, they can't handle any stress and whatever. These families, though, you can't tell. Okay, so don't look at a family and be like, oh, they're all single mothers in that family, but they all act normal. Yeah, they act normal in public. Okay, uh, the lower your economic level is, yeah, if you're living in the projects in the hood, yeah, you're gonna know it. They're gonna act that way where they break down and can't handle anything in public. But when it's in the middle class or the lower middle class or the upper lower class, yeah, they hide it. Okay, like me. I'm from a non-binary family. I freak out at the whatever the littlest idiot's thing. You know what I mean? But when I'm at work, if you want to, I used to cut grass, right? If you went asked any of my customers and said, "Oh, he freaks out all the time," they'd be like, "Come on, man, that's a lie." Yeah, because I don't show it in public. You know what I mean? I don't freak out in public. Uh, and the same with these single mothers. You know what I mean? You might say, "No, I know a lot of single mothers, and they ain't freaking out." You don't know them well enough. Hang out with them a little bit more. I'm not saying everyone everyone has a different degree of crazy, but yeah, you're non-binary, and you're a woman, you're not in your place. They go crazy. Same way with working. They can't handle working. They just cannot handle it. And the other thing was, they glorified and demonized. They glorified a bad boy. I want to talk about the bad boy thing. They and they demonized the good, hard-working man. You know what I mean? They define now a good, hard-working man, a good morals, good man as being mentally stable and economically stable. That's called boring now. I wish I had a time machine. I'd put some of these women in a time machine, send them back to 1700, get them to say that to a woman. Any woman back then, if they heard that another woman say that, they would smack them, like instantaneously, without hesitation. Uh, then in the 40s, 50s, or whatever, they started making movies, then sitcoms and blah 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 blah, saying how the good hardworking man is boring, and they glorify these with these love stories, right? The love stories are always with the bad boy. Oh, I gotta have the bad boy. They glorified it, just like Disney. You know what I mean? But so that's more reasons why. Like when they sleep around and they lose their biomechanism, their ability to imprint on a man, right? Because they slept with too many men. Then when they sleep with men, they don't get that dopamine high, from imprinting. You know what I mean? And so they try regular guys, and they can. So they go back to they're forced basically by their own mind to go back to the bad boy, because at least now they feel something. It's chaos, you know what I mean, and anger because the guy is always treating them like crap. But they're feeling something, right? It's better to feel that than nothing, because you can't imprint, so you can never have that dopamine, that high of imprinting. Uh, then let's see what else here. Okay, and here's another way which would they reinforce the hate, the racism against men. You know what I mean? I want you to think of it like this. Let's say that all the people on the planet died. The only people left are white women and black men. And all the white women are white supremacists. And I mean like real white supremacists, like back in the 1700s. You know what I mean? That's the white supremacist, all right, when they had the slaves. Uh, And what do you think would happen? Like everyone, I hate this so bad, like they all say, oh, why do they have such high standards, these women? Why do they need, they're average people, or some of them are in the projects. And they're like, I need a man that makes $100,000 a year, blah, 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 blah. That's why, because they're so racist. I mean, what would happen if you had all white supremacist women and black men? It's the only way you can get a family or, have kids is to get these black men. That's why their bar is so high. That's why then when it's just an average man, even above average, like someone making like 80, 90 a year, that's good, man. You should be happy as heck to have that. But they look at it like they're garbage or something, you know what I mean? And that's the reason why. See? And so what happens? They only want the top 16%, right? That forces them to only accept the top 16%. I'm just making up a number. It could be 10 to 20%, whatever you want to say. But if you have the top 16% and they have money, the top 16% is rich, right? They have all the options in the world, meaning if you have 100 men and 100 women, the top 16, literally 100 women want them, and they hate the, remaining 94% or whatever, 84%. They hate them, right? So these men here up here, they have all the money in the world. Why would they do anything other than just sleep around with these women? These women are just 100% of them are sleeping with that 16%. And obviously not the ugly ones and the fat ones and the, go down in whatever, value. They're not getting them. But the ones that are sleeping around, they're all sleeping with the same guys. Statistics prove it, especially on dating apps. You have basically all the women want these 16%. See, this reinforces the hate, right? Just like I said in the one story, the non-binary grandmother went up to the granddaughter's boyfriend. She knew that he couldn't answer questions, so what did she do? She ran up to him every 5 minutes. Hey, I have a question for you. I have a question. And then when he would hem and haw and not really answer and take an hour to answer, then she can walk away and say, see, God! And then bitch about it for like an hour, each time, you know what I mean? How he's a horrible man and how, I hate him so bad. They reinforce it, but they create it, and they create the fact that they don't want no one but this top 16%, right? And then when they get used, right, by these top, because they have options. You have no options. You live in the projects or you work at Walmart, all right? And you think you deserve a billionaire, so that reinforces it because they're getting treated like crap all the time, right? By the same 16% of the male population is treating them bad, reinforcing the fact that men are just users. Men will just sleep with you and leave. Men will lie to you all the time just to get in bed with you. Men, that story goes up, it just reinforces the hate, So let's look at the black neighborhood, and I have actual statistics, okay? That, like the 16%, everyone knows it's between 10 and 20%. That's the top men that they want. No, they won't settle for any. They will settle so that they can have kids and then divorce them and take the guy's half his money. But when they do that, if they're non-binary, they think that they're settling, even though they're getting someone who's better than them. But it ain't better enough. It isn't the best. It isn't perfect. So what's going on in the black neighborhoods, right? 54%. Okay, first of all, 80% of kids in black people, 80% come from single mothers. 80%. See, the blacks, they started indoctrinating them a long time before everybody else. So whatever you see in the black community, it's coming to your community soon. Okay? All right? Soon. All right? So anyways, 80% of kids, black kids, are born from single mothers. They're brought up with single mothers, and they're born as single mothers. Like, they ain't married first. Okay, so who's doing this? Who are they sleeping with? You know, right? Well, let's think about it. 54% of black men have no kids and are unmarried. So it couldn't be them. If they have no kids, right, then they weren't giving these single mothers to kids, right? Then you got 30% that are married. And let's take them out of the equation because they're married. So they're probably not, you know, I'm sure there's a small fraction of these 2%, you know, these two groups that are doing it, you know what I mean? But in general, most of them aren't, you know what I mean? They're not doing it, obviously. So that's 84% of married black men and black men that have no kids. So that 84%, we can take it out of the equation, right? Right? That only leaves 16% of black men. That means 16% of the black population is making 80% of the babies with these single mothers, okay? Don't you get it? Don't you see what's happening? They're so racist against men, right? They're only going to take the top 16%, right? But who is the top 16% in a black neighborhood? They don't have access to Rockefeller. They don't have access to that CEO. Who do they have access to that has money in the hood? Yeah, these are the gangbangers, the drug dealers, those people. That's why they're all deadbeat dads. You know, they're all, you know what I mean? They always leave or whatever. Because you slept with a freaking gangbanger. What did you expect? You know what I mean? So that's what happens. They only go and they can't accept, and it's so ingrained in the black neighborhood, right, that they think that they would rather have a drug dealer than a CEO. It's crazy. They're so brainwashed. Yeah. Let's see how much time we got. All right. So, yeah, they only go with the top 16%, but they only have access to the gangbangers and the, you know, the drug dealers. So let's see this last thing here. The lie about divorce rates. Okay. This is a lie. Okay. Another propaganda attempt, right, to make women feel like they are unsafe if they get into a marriage, right? Because 50% of the people, they get divorced, right? Isn't that what the statistics say? And we all believe it, and we all whatever. It is true. It's 50%. But if you look at the, see, I'm not that person that I've literally spent 8 hours in a library at one chunk of time just looking at data, okay? And I'm talking about reference books where there's no story, there's no, you know, it's not even like a textbook where no, it's just pages after pages of data. You know what I mean? So I know how to look for data. This is a lie, okay? Just like, that's why I have so many climate crisis videos. It's not even telling you as much about the climate crisis as it is showing you how they manipulate the data. You know what I mean? They just manipulate it. Yeah. So anyways, let's say you have 100 marriages, 78 of them, okay, they work. So 78, that means you have a 22% divorce rate, right? 22 of them divorced you, right? That's the truth, okay? And why is it, but why do they say 50%? Because those 22%, they go out and they divorce 3.5 times. They're serial divorces, right? And when you add in those divorces, right, those 22 losers, they go out and they divorce 78 times. So it's a 50%.